God puts us in nations, in places, not by mistake, but to do a job. What if we opened our eyes to the needs of our colleagues, of our leaders, of our subordinates, and we were a priest on their behalf? Welcome to the Repurposing Business Podcast. My name is Brett Johnson.
And I'm Lynn Johnson.
And we're going to be talking about how to get our business into God's business. Our subtext is Let My Business Go, and we'll have guests from around the world. So thank you for joining us this week and every week on the Repurposing Business Podcast. Welcome to the Repurposing Business Podcast. My name is Brett Johnson.
And I'm Lynn Johnson.
And today we have two special guests. Lynn, who do we have with us?
Oh, this is so exciting. We have Cliff and Kerry Stewart, and it's fantastic to have you guys with us. They're coming in from Cape Town. You can see it's summer in Cape Town. They look so summery while we're all bundled up. So good to have you with us. We've been friends for a long time, and it's a joy to have you on the podcast today.
I think we met Cliff in about 2004, right, Cliff?
That's right, yeah. I think it was April 2004.
That's right.
He was a lonely bachelor, and then at some point he said, I've met this amazing girl. And that's when we met Kerry.
That's right. That's right. Rescued him from a lonely life in a Land Rover. So, yeah, fantastic. So today we're going to be talking about becoming a student of your spouse, and you guys have done a great job of that. And we're going to unpack a little bit this concept of Lemon for Lovers. So let me give a bit of background on Lemon leadership first for those who don't know anything about it. Firstly, there's 5 types of leaders. What are they, Lynn?
Luminaries, entrepreneurs, managers, organizers, and networkers.
Excellent. And I tell Lynn she's the one. She's an organizer, networker, entrepreneur.
Woo-hoo. And I live with a luminary manager. Very big luminary.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the issue is that typically in leadership, people talk about 2 types of leaders, entrepreneurs and managers, and people try to squeeze into those boxes. Sometimes they add on visionaries, but it leaves about 50% of the world's population just out in the cold. And so Lemon Leadership describes these 5 types. Now, as we worked with leaders around the world, we found actually that there was a big application to families and to couples. In fact, I remember years ago, Lynn, probably 1998, we had a session and we had a marriage and family counselor at a session, spent a couple of hours, hour and a half looking at Lemon leadership, and then went back and changed the way he dealt with couples because he realized that many of the marriage conflicts were really just people understanding who they were. So fast forward a couple of years ago, we put on a course for the first time called Lemon for Lovers, and Cliff and Kerry were at that course. So we're going to unpack that a little bit with you.
The front row.
You were in the front row.
We love it when our friends are willing to come and participate when we're experimenting with something new.
That's right. Yeah. And in some respects, yeah, Lynn and I thought it was a pretty ordinary day, just a lot of common sense stuff, but we had about 25 couples. Cliff and Kerry were there afterwards and had some feedback. So I thought what we would do is just unpack a little bit. I know there's many other things that have helped you guys understand each other, but just to unpack a little bit how Lemon for Lovers played into that. So first, maybe just some broad general comments. Kerry, tell us about your feedback on the day and what you thought.
Well, I think the first thing that I thought, and it was something for us to celebrate because we have walked with you guys for so long and you have mentored us in a sense of around the lemon styles and helping us understand how we are. We really could celebrate on that day to say a lot of the stuff that other marriages were talking about, we kind of didn't really have that because we had been walking with you in a mentorship way and you'd been helping us identify, I'm an entrepreneur, Cliff's an entrepreneur, very big, interesting dynamic there. But just also talk about our weaknesses and our strengths. And we had already started to kind of partner with each other and celebrate each other's giftedness and identity. And so that was the first thing that we took away. I think was, wow, this stuff works. We're not just in a workshop, but we've actually practiced this for a few years. And listening to some of the other marriage dynamics, we kind of bypassed them. So thank you for that. Yeah, that for me was one of the real take homes. Is it wasn't just another seminar. We had experienced the fruit in our marriage.
Yeah.
One of the interesting thing that we learned on the day was we were quite unique in that out of how many couples? 25 couples.
Yeah.
Not a single one of them had our giftings are luminary entrepreneur, both of us, and everybody else had a mix of all
five.
So there was nobody else who was completely overlapped in terms of luminary entrepreneur, which was interesting.
So that's
but with that said, Clifford's learned to be a manager, and he makes me do spreadsheets, and it just was a disaster. And after that, I was like, that's it, no more spreadsheets.
So that can create an interesting dynamic because somebody has to do the stuff. And Kerry, you're very organized in the running of your home and your eating programs. And Cliff does a whole bunch of other stuff on the admin side and finance and IT, of course, and other things. So, it's not that you can just say, I'm a luminary entrepreneur, so I don't have to do those other things. You guys actually get in and roll up your sleeves and lean into some other things as well. How does that work?
It doesn't most days. No, I'm kidding. No, so I end up picking up, I think, a little bit more of the M, and probably rubbing shoulders with Brett Lynn has caused me to enhance and sharpen my M to a razor sharp level. And so I tend to pick up a little bit more of the sort of more M type stuff, but Kerry's really, really good with organizing and getting things out the gate, and it's tough to keep up to her.
But I think we've learned to. I know that I irritate Clifford with the budget because I don't really do very well with the admin stuff. Okay. But I think there's been a grace for. I mean, budget's a big thing in a marriage, but I think there's sometimes a grace from him because he knows that it just does not come into my worldview. Like, I really struggle with it, and yet I know that it's something that I've got to work on, and we've got to be open in our communication. So even though it's not our strength, we've realized who can carry that. And then on the flip side, Cliff just doesn't get involved in the organizing because you're busy and I keep it going, and we just work as a team. I don't know how to explain it, but we have to often communicate, and I think that's the big thing. And the skill set to learn how to communicate with each other has been very valuable in doing Lemon.
Yeah, fantastic. Oh, by the way, your volume just went up beautifully, so it's great. Whatever you've done is good. So that's
cool.
Good. So how do you deal with? Well, Lynn, let me ask you if you want to add something over there or ask a question.
No, I love the fact that just understanding that you're both entrepreneurs and then going, we're going to have so many new ideas. I mean, we've watched you through our friendship with you have wonderful ideas, some that are still waiting to come to fruition, and others that you've moved fully into and that have been just amazing. And you're continuing to do just what needs to be done. And the fact that you go, all right, this is an area where it's not the natural gifting to do all the, as Kerry says, the spreadsheets, but you know what needs to be done. And then you understand that somebody has to pick it up. So I think that's really good. And when one doesn't understand that this is an area of weakness for both of you, the agitation can be greater and going, why don't you do it? Why don't you do it? Well, no, neither of us, this doesn't flow in our strength, but we need to pick this up. And so there is a grace because it comes out of an understanding. So I think that's wonderful. And then learning to communicate, that's excellent.
Yeah. So talk to me, Cliffy, how do you guys deal with the weaknesses side? Because there's the strengths of the Lemon leadership side and you've got complementary strengths. But when it comes to the weaknesses side, how do you guys deal with that? And what tips and techniques have you had to kind of get over some of the hurdles?
I don't know.
They don't have any weaknesses, Lynn.
I know we do. We just like, which ones do we actually want to put out there?
I think it's communication. It really is just basically communication, understanding and learning a little bit about Kerry and her learning more about me, in that we understand where the weaknesses lie, we appreciate them, and then we pick the moments to address things that and say them in a way that we can resolve whatever this thing is in the shortest place of time. So I can't think of an example now, but it's just about positioning it in the right way with the person, understanding that they have weaknesses and I have weaknesses, she has weaknesses, we both do, and then trying to resolve it with the least amount of
One of my observations about you as a couple, so we've got the 5 types of leaders, the luminaries, entrepreneurs, managers, organizers, and networks. Then we've got styles that overlay on that. And some of those are direct and indirect, analytical and intuitive, and people have different time horizons. It strikes me a bit that Kerry's urgency is higher than yours, Clifford, right? So Cliff sometimes, and so there's an area where even though you've got similar wiring, you have a different grace level on time frame. So I think Kerry needs stuff done sooner. And for you, I mean, it's not that urgent always, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. So I think, especially in lockdown, that has definitely been something that's been a little bit more to the forefront, just with more responsibility on me, homeschooling the kids and cleaning our house and, trying to run businesses. That definitely has come to the forefront. And in the beginning, yes, I know it was lockdown, but I think we were not communicating well, and I was getting very angry and very upset. And to actually just take a step back and is to see the person. Cliff was also dealing with stuff, and we moved to a new place, very interesting place in lockdown. So there were lots of dynamics that we were dealing with. And I think Cliff had said it, it's to choose the right moment to communicate. So when things are not done, like, could you please take that plate to the kitchen, and it's still there 4 days later. It doesn't actually happen 4 days, because I'll do it 2 minutes later. But but it's to not speak in the moment when you're angry with one another, but to rather just wait. Sorry, Katie, wait. It's to rather wait. I'm sorry, we just got to sort out our kids. It's the reality of homeschooling. And
yes. No, that's fine. That's fine.
But we've got to wait for when we both our emotions are calmed down, to have a heart-to-heart connection, not a you did, I did, why didn't you didn't, but it's to choose that moment. And Clifford does it way better than I do, because I'm a lot more volatile and out there. And he's calm and slow and cool and collected. But we work on that.
My best advice is not too early in the morning, but morning after coffee.
After coffee. Yeah, you got to have the anesthetic first. Yeah.
Do it in the evenings, morning, once the wake-up process is completed and there's coffee.
Yeah.
But that's so wise. I mean, that's such a wise piece of advice. And it does take personal self-control, because when one's upset about something, normally it just wants to pop out right away there. But being able to go, no, holding back on that. And then, as you say, everything cools down, the emotions cool down, and then you can raise an issue at the right time. And it's a constructive engagement. It's positive, it's upbuilding. I love that. That's so wise.
Yeah. And I've noticed, Cliffy, there goes Nate. I've noticed, Cliffy, that you've been very thoughtful about this. So when there's something, maybe a bit of a disconnect or something you need to work through, then you've tried to understand where Kerry is coming from, what's driving her, what's pressing her buttons, and how to adapt. I remember once I felt God say to me, when I was thinking about a situation that Lynn was having an emotional response to, I felt God say, just take your emotional response and times it by 10, and you'll know how Lynn is feeling. And so, just to get an understanding of each other in that regard. Yeah. So I think picking the times is good, and making sure you mitigate some of the other surrounding stuff. Otherwise, stuff can get into a fever. Yeah.
I think it's also, what you say is 100% right, Brett, and that also just understanding, thinking through how she would feel about a situation, but also just being cognizant of whatever the issue is that you're talking about or resolving. It's not potentially not the only issue that Kerry's working through. So it might not be tomorrow morning after coffee. It might be next week in the morning after coffee, because she's got something else that's going on. And just to press the pause button, and to your point, Lynn, of just being patient and just figuring out timing. It's really because otherwise you drop.
Yes.
You might be dropping a sort of depth charge on a problem that doesn't need it, and you can resolve it at a later date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. Still in the conversation, but I think there's something that we don't want to fix each other, and I think that underlines Clifford's statement. Is I didn't marry Clifford to change him to look like a specific way. Well, sometimes I wish you pick just, but we partner with each other in life. We want to complement each other. We're teams, so we bring our weaknesses and our strengths, and we're not trying to fix each other. And I think that's what gives us the grace to be able to say, well, I'm not going to speak about that now. Let me wait. Let me just wait a week and work out why, and we can have a heart-to-heart connection, because my end goal is not to change Cliff. And his end goal is not to change me, but our goal is for heart connection between the two of us, so that we can be better, help each other move forward in life. So I think that kind of underlines what we're talking about.
I love that. Powerful that you want to have the heart connection. And I was just going to actually say this, something I've observed in both of you is the fact that you look for opportunities to promote and to celebrate each other. So, Kerry, you have looked for ways to make a platform underneath Cliff's feet, or to open up a space for him to move into the things that make his heart sing. And then I've seen, Cliff, you do it for Kerry as well, both speaking about what she's doing whatever you can do to assist her when she's launching something. You're providing the technical help, and you're talking about it, and vice versa. And that's something I've observed from when I first knew you. And I think this is so powerful, because as you both trying to not just serve yourself in the context of the relationship and the marriage, but how do you really promote the other person? It makes both of you stronger, and then you can move forward. So I just want to commend you for that, because I think you've done that so well.
Yeah, it takes a wise, secure man to be married to a strong woman.
Strong and brilliant and creative and entrepreneurial.
And beautiful. Yeah.
Yes,
no one else could be married to me.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of wisdom. And Cliffy, it's been good that you've been secure in who you are, so that you can celebrate your wife, and vice versa, both of you secure in your identity. Which kind of takes me to another thing, which is how the two of you serve other people. Now, each of you has your own things that you're doing, but how does your combination of your leadership wiring and gifting play out in serving other people? Because often that's the salvation of a marriage, is to not just focus on each other, but okay, the two of us are a team to do stuff, to accomplish things, to produce a return. And so when you focus outwards, then it helps the internal. How does that work for you?
Well, I think we find ourselves in a very interesting spot in our marriage at the moment, with moving from our complete support system to completely not knowing anybody. And so we're kind of finding our feet in a new way with regards to that question. But just the way Clifford serves and how we serve other people is we really see that right now in our work, it's an offering of our service. It's the ability to come alongside and to build the kingdom with other like-minded people in the work that we do. And so one of the things I do is I've come behind and to try and make his work as seamless and as easy as possible. So it would be packed lunches, it would be like practical things, packed lunches, snacks, so that he doesn't have to stop and think about what to eat, that he's still getting nutrition throughout the day, to more, okay, sometimes when he does work very, very late, very often, I will say something, but I try not to say, you know, you've had 3 late nights at the office, can you please come home? Because I acknowledge that what we are doing is we're building the kingdom together. But Clifford also communicates a lot with me with regards to what's taking place in, well, not as much as I want because I'm a verbal processor, but he does try and communicate with me with regards to this is taking place at work. This is where we need prayer. This is where we need that. And it allows me then to come behind him and support him in those ways as well. So, yeah, as I said, we're growing in this new season because in the past we would have had people over and we would have, but we're a little bit isolated now. And so we're just learning how to do it in a new way.
I think
Cliff, how are you supporting Kerry? Because Kerry's got some new initiatives as normal. So how are you supporting her?
So I think there's the practical stuff. So, you know, just in terms of practically helping her set up the platforms and the systems and what have you, looking after the kids while she's jumping onto those calls and making the space for her to be able to do all the prep work and that kind of stuff. So there's and like she does, you know, for me. So there's the practical stuff. But I think then there's also this sort of more spiritual stuff where we are constantly just communicating what it is that God's calling us to do, what is that outward-facing task for other people that God's calling us to do, and sharing that with each other. And then we can come into agreement and apply our spiritual gifts to that. So sometimes there'll be a thought on approaching a situation slightly differently from a spiritual perspective that I'll share with her, or a prophetic word that she'll bring into a situation that just completely turns that situation around. And so I think there's definitely practical elements to it, but also very definitely spiritual elements to supporting each other. And I think that in both cases, it's the season that we've been in for the last 12 plus months, 12 to 24 months, has been very outwardly focused, not our stuff. So although we're both entrepreneurs, it's actually serving other people. We both are in a situation where we've got very outward focused sort of focuses at the moment where we're serving other people.
And I think you know, what's so important is to know, you know, what is his strengths, what is his weaknesses, but to know his heart, and for Cliff to know my heart. So last month I launched a new product for Hearing God, how to teach your kids to hear God, and we've been talking through it, but Cliff is so encouraging. So he's my best encourager. And when I want to pull the plug because I don't think it's going to work, he's my best encourager, which then allows me to take a step out, to launch the product, to put myself out there. Where if you don't have that, you kind of can fall back and be like, oh, it's a silly idea, I'm not going to do it. And I think that's really, for me, one of the biggest supports is the encouragement that I get from him. To step out and to say, okay, yes, I believe in you. You can do this. Well, have you thought about this? Why don't we do it like this? And we build together. And I think that's how we support each other. And it's fun because we get to see the kingdom grow together.
Yeah, I think if there's one takeaway for me, Lynn, from today is the mutual encouragement, right? Because, I mean, there are enough critics out there in the world. And if your spouse isn't your primary encourager, then life can be pretty miserable pretty quickly.
Yes.
And one of the exercises we do in the Lemon for Lovers is, how appreciated do you feel in these different areas? Do you feel appreciated for your ideas? Do you feel appreciated for your initiative? Do you feel appreciated for the fact that you've put systems in place so that there is dog food in the cupboard when you need it or whatever, or there is money in the bank? Do you feel appreciated for the fact that you actually just do tasks with, just without being asked and bring things to closure? Do you feel appreciated that you actually bridge exciting people or other people into the relationship? And just asking couples, how well do you feel appreciated? Because that's such a basic thing. So it's good to hear you guys appreciating each other, which is wonderful. One of the reasons Cliff appreciates you so much, Kerry, is because he had to wait so long to find you. This is one of the things.
Worth the wait.
Worth the wait. Yeah.
We're definitely worth the wait.
Yeah. And then one last question from my side, because I know you have to head out there, but any observations on your children on the Lemon leadership front, and how's that impacted you as parents and how you approach them and relate to them?
Well, what we can say is our son. So just to clarify, Clifford is the luminary entrepreneur and I'm the entrepreneur luminary. So right. Our son has definitely got luminary in him, definitely. And so I have noticed, now that I'm schooling them, I have noticed he will get so distracted because he goes, Mom, I have an idea. And Clifford does the exact same thing because I have an idea. And in the beginning, I'd engage in his idea. And now I'm actually like, no, you got to work. Come, we're focusing you back. Let's write that idea down. We'll come back. So we can definitely see that Nathan is got an idea, very much ideas guy, and very much a heart like Clifford, and ideas for others to improve others' lives. Where Kate is our entrepreneur through and through. She will make us dinner and then sell it to us. She will draw art and then sell it to us. And she's probably going to be the world's best negotiator. So if you think about us, pray for wisdom. And often I want to she can't do that. And Cliff will say, come on, just think about it. Don't think about it in a negative way. She's going to be a great negotiator. She's not back chatting. She's going to be a great negotiator. How are we going to give her the skill set to operate in the way she is made? So, we are able to identify in our kids. And I think, especially if the character and the personality is similar to yours, you can sometimes identify the negative much quicker, which... I can talk for my little girl and I. We're very similar. So I can often see the negative and then I think, oh my goodness, but I do that. I do that. And so it can be a hard thing, but it's to constantly choose to see the giftedness and the goodness and to get your eyes renewed to see her how God sees her, or to see Nathan how God sees Nathan. But we can see it in our kids. I don't know if you want to add anything.
I think I haven't given too much thought, but just thinking through it now while Kerry was talking, I think Nathan's probably a luminary entrepreneur and Kate's probably an entrepreneur organizer.
Yeah,
actually. Yeah. And it is. I think I've subconsciously been knowing that and been communicating to them in that way. Now that I think about it, haven't given it much thought before, but I think maybe Lemon has actually sunk deeper than I have realized.
Because Kate, if we want her to do something, we've got to make her believe it's her idea and that she can organize it. And she does it. So it's just some of the I don't think you guys understand how much Lemon has influenced the way that we do life and the way that we connect with people. Not that we want to box people and put them into a little category, but it gives us an ability to communicate with them, knowing that they are going to get it. They are going to understand what we're trying to say. And so I do think it's just become part of the way we do life. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, I wish that I had this before I started parenting. I think certainly, it came along as we were partway through with our kids, and it taught us to ask different questions even now and to relate to them differently based on who they are. And the same thing with other people, which is part of when the scripture says that we're to love each other and die to self and so forth. Then, one of the ways we love each other is communicating the way they would prefer to be communicated to. The other part that I love about what you said is, when you're looking for the strengths, you can either slap down the negotiator and say she can start negotiating when she's 20 or something, or you can say, this is the glory of God in Kate because this is the way that she's wired. And so looking for the glory in each other and the good parts and what's to celebrate, and being less worried about some of the other bits, I think is really, really important with kids. And I think certainly causes the kids to feel more celebrated. Yeah. Well, I know that.
I was going to say Cliff's really good at this, and we did it a few times. We've done it a few times, but we just sit down at the table and we just tell everybody what we honor them for and what we love them for. We'll say, okay, it's Kate's turn, and then we'll just say, this is what we love about Kate. And they love it. They really, you can just see for the next few days they are just they feel awesome. But it also just reminds us to, especially me, because I'm around them all day long. All day long, it's very easy to focus on the negative, and just that just stopping and calling out the positive makes us stop and to think and you can say, wow, God's wow, this is God's child, and this is what they operate in, and it's amazing. So he does that well.
Great. Well, another topic that we can get into sometime, but we'll just throw it out here as a teaser. Kerry has for many years taught classes on hearing God. How do you hear God's voice? And one of the things that I've seen with couples is this question of decision making, which involves hearing God, because we make decisions based on hearing God. And what I've found in more recent years is that for a luminary, it's quite simple as to how you hear God. You get an aha, which might come from reading the Bible, or just an idea which you claim has been there for a long time, even though it just flashed through your mind, as we just saw with Clifford. But you get this an idea, you do a little bit of rough research to validate your idea, you figure out the resources required, and so forth. And then at the end, you think, okay, what do the people think about this? But it's completely different if your spouse is a networker, because they start with the people, or if they're an organizer, their starting point is the pain point. There's a problem over here. Whereas the luminary starts with the idea. And so even the fact that husbands and wives who are wired differently and kids actually hear God differently. And it's not that one is right and one is wrong, but the starting point varies. So for a manager, it starts with resources, whereas the luminary will say, you can't start with the resources, because if the idea is great, the resources just take care of themselves, and so forth. So even the connection between hearing God together and how you're wired is an interesting thing. And the decision making, I think, is a big deal. And I know you guys make decisions well together, but we've seen that with couples. If you can figure out how to do a basic thing, which is how to make decisions together, which involves, as believers, how do you hear God together? And not claiming that your way of hearing God trumps the other person's way, because that's even more of a challenge. Christians are less prone to negotiate if they think their perspective comes from God, whatever it is. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, guys, thank you so much for sharing your story and your life. We've really, we're sorry that we're not living around the corner.
I know, yes.
For many practical reasons.
We miss you.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
And and so we miss spending time with you, but we're glad we can connect. And thanks for opening up your marriage, the life with your kids, and thanks for all that you do for the kingdom.
Yes.
And we appreciate that. We enjoy working with you. We enjoy doing things alongside you. And I am sure, Kerry, that many of those long-held dreams of Cliff's, they're going to come to fruition. Right, Cliff?
Yes.
Absolutely.
We trust that. But before, we have promised our kids a white Christmas. So before those dreams come true, we'll be going for a white Christmas. No, we trust that. And I think that's the thing, is to not get stuck in the mundane things in front of us in life and give up on those dreams, but to to keep talking about them. And we've been through a really rough season on having to hold on to those dreams and having to hold on to those visions. But it's to keep encouraging each other that, you know, God put that there for a reason. So we've got to just hang in there and do what's in front of us right now. But it's not the end. It's not it. We're working towards those dreams.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think anybody that has a growing and healthy relationship at the end of this COVID season has done really well, because the pressures all the way around have been so intense. And we've seen in people that we love dearly, you know, just the cracks opening up underneath the pressure of not having a support base, not having people around about that can help you with your children, with your family, that you could, I mean, just all the things around it. And so I think, you know, I just commend you again for your commitment to the Lord first, to each other and to your family, and continuing to grow with all the pressures that the world is facing and that you have faced with a move and all of that. So well done. And we're proud of you, and just thank you just for your love and friendship. We really do appreciate you.
Yep. So thank you, Cliff and Kerry. Appreciate you so much.
Absolute pleasure.